Okay, it is time to discuss composting toilets. This is a nature's head. I don't think it matters that much which composting toilet you get. I basically got this one based on dimensions. There are several out there. I would just make sure that they separate number 1 and number 2 and have a pretty good capacity and are good quality. So I'm going to dump this composting toilet today for your viewing pleasure. But I want to talk a little bit about it as I go. First thing is spray, very important. We'll talk about it more. Basically, every time you do any business in here, you want to spray this in the bowl, and you want to have this always be the last thing to go in. If you don't, you can get some calcium built up right there. I don't know if it's calcium, but it's gross. And other things. And then if you ever have a big event in here, you'll want to have something to do a little squirty. All right, let's take this thing out, and I can talk about this. I guess it's kind of a pee diverter. You notice there's no tank in here. I think I've alluded to the fact that having a pee tank on your composting toilet is one of the, it's the most disgusting part by far. So to get mine out, I've just got, well, to get them all out, they're just two little, these guys. And then I just kind of rock mine to the side, and I disconnect the plug for the power and the vent. And now here's the weird part. This is where this rubber thing used to go onto the pee tank. And I just made this little PVC guy in place of it. So actually I could just pull this up maybe. No, I'll do it with the whole toilet. But this replaces my bottle. And then I have a 7-gallon yellow tank underneath the camper. Okay, taking the toilet out, and we've got the pee tank diverter in there, and I should be able to just lift straight up, and those two pieces of PVC will come apart just like that. So here's the PVC that goes through the floor, and the other piece is with the toilet, but we'll take that outside and look at it. It's relatively clean under there. Yay me. Okay, this toilet, I wonder what it weighs. This thing weighs, I'm going to say 40 pounds, maybe 30, 40 pounds when it's full. So that's something to consider. And it's pretty big too. Now, you can very easily just pull the top piece off. And I've done that. Maybe if I'm kind of in a little bit more of a stealth location and I don't want to come walking out with a giant toilet. You can leave the top inside, but it can be a little bit messy. Today, I'm just going to bring the whole thing out. This is just tape right here where one of my many experiments with the composting toilet. I've done a bunch of them. Nice thing about Nature's Head is the fan is right here. And if your fan burns out, which it will probably after a couple of years, email them and they'll send you the whole unit for free, shipping and everything. And then you just plug it right back in. It's really easy. So I've had people say, you got to get rid of that rear bumper. It's too big. It sticks out too far. But this is why I haven't yet. I just find it handy. Like my bike helmet sitting over there also. So I will open this guy. We'll pull this out so everybody can see what it looks like. And it's still full of magic right now. It's actually been quite a while since it's been changed. And that's one of the very best things about composting toilets is if you're part-time, if you use it for, let's say, 4 or 5 days, and then you park for a week or two, and then you come back. This is basically a desiccator. So every time you come back, it's like it's empty again. And the way you can tell how much is in there is how easy it is to turn the handle. You know, I can feel, pretty good resistance right there. And when it starts getting hard to turn, that's when it's time to dump it like it is now. But if you go part-time, I know one friend who's gone months without changing his compost. Okay, let's take this guy out so humans can see what it looks like. Oh, it's scary in there. All right, it's a little gross on top, but hey, this is a toilet. Oh boy, kind of wishing I would have cleaned that a little bit, but I didn't. So 3/4 inch PVC, you know, all these parts are simple to get. Remember that other piece just comes up through the floor. That plugs right into it. So that's it. For now, we set that aside. We latch this so we don't dump it on ourselves, and let's go to a hole that I have dug. So some people just put this in a garbage bag and then they throw it in a dumpster or something like that. You know, I'm completely convinced that this tree and these bushes are going to really benefit from my products. And it's also kind of cool thinking that, I don't know what, amino acids, what does it break down to? And I'm no scientist, but I think it's kind of cool that a little bit of me is going up into that tree. Okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. Okay, we're taking the lid off. This is full. I've used it. This is real. You might want to leave here if you're squeamish. Hopefully you'll be amazed at what it looks like in here. All right, unclip those, open this. This is a little tricky sometimes. There's a little hinge, has to be just right. All the weight has to be off of it. And this is what I was talking about earlier. That can be a little messy. And don't be scared. It's peat moss basically. But this is real, man. This is real. All right, we're just gonna set that down. All right, take a nice look in there. Ooh, I see some goodies stuck onto the churner. But I mean, if you opened a bag of, I don't know, some sort of compost or fertilizer at Home Depot, it would look just like that. This is full. This has been in here for over a month. And I don't put paper in there, so that's one thing. It lasts a lot longer if you don't. But yeah, there it is. It's full. All right, I dug a hole and I'm just dumping it in, and then we'll fill it back up and talk about it a little bit more. Here we go. All right. Okay, a couple things to think about here. So when you look inside, so that's compost that's basically stuck down into the corners. So this thing's square, right? For the most part. And so this guy, when it turns around, it doesn't get those corners. And so I thought, what the heck, man? I can make this thing a lot more efficient if everything gets mixed. So that's why these little tape things are here. I put screws in here, and what I did was I took a 5-gallon bucket and I cut the side out and I made it sit in there nice and flush. So when this turned around, it just scooped the whole thing. It didn't work. It wasn't a good idea. Turns out it needs to have those corners. They catch the extra moisture. If you get a chunk in there when it dries out, it kind of needs to be able to dig into that corner. So anyway, that needs to be there. Something to consider is if you ever get in a situation where you need to, I'm gonna set this down, it's kind of heavy. If you get in a situation where you need to extend the use of your toilet, you're visiting the in-laws, you're in a gated community, you don't want to use the house for some reason, you're using this, but it's full. But if you go in here and you just break up these corners with anything, it just takes 2 minutes. What happens now is that part gets mixed in and it will extend your toilet for 2 or 3 days. So you can get a little bit more time. So I'm gonna dump this in the hole. And I'm just going to knock on the sides here to get it all out. You want new stuff in there because you want it to be able to have as much material as possible to suck up all that moisture. Remember, this doesn't really have time to compost. It is basically a desiccator. Yeah, you want it empty. I like peat moss the very best. There's coconut coir, which I've used because it's easy to transport, it's compressed. But Sphagnum peat moss is definitely my favorite. Home Depot, get a giant bag for 20 bucks. It'll last over a year. You wanna get that, not the Miracle Grow, yeah. Because that has fertilizers in it and stuff. And if there is any actual composting going on, that can't happen if you have Miracle Grow. So we're done here. Take this back to the back of the truck. All right. I use this bag right here, Trader Joe's refrigerator bag, just because it's leak proof. It's kind of nice. So this is my compost. We're putting it right back in. I think this is going to be peat moss, or maybe mostly coconut coir. How do you say that? C-O-I-R. I don't know how you say that. So that's what it looks like. Got to break those bricks up, of course, really well. I'm going to zip this back up mostly. I just want it to come in slow. So we're just gonna fill this up. How much do we put in there? Well, I'm glad you asked. I will tell you in just a minute. Don't do this in the wind. All right, so putting that in, I just saw some fall in the front part, which I was trying not to do. Okay, how much do we put in? So see your handle there? You want that handle basically level with compost. If you put too much in, it just gets hard to turn. It's wasteful. So we're gonna put it at that level. So more. The coconut coir, I think it was 2 bricks, 1.5 brick. I can't remember how much it was. Okay, let's turn it. You can see exactly what action happens in there. Yeah, that's pretty level. Another really important point with these composting toilets, whenever you finish using this thing, you want to turn it vertically, because as you drive, everything settles and compacts. And if it's got a lot of material in there and you left it like this and it all compacts, it is like it's hard to get in. It's hard to get this thing to turn into it. So this is the travel position, but when this is the use position, because see that little stalagmite area right there? That's what can happen if it's up. Products will kind of hit that on the way, and then I don't know. I'm not touching it. Okay, I think that's overkill there. Let's put the lid back on. So we just did a cut segment, and I spoke with my cameraman who also has a composting toilet, and he informed me that it might be called coconut coir, which I don't really believe, but he's probably right because he usually is. And then he gets a 2.5-gallon Ziploc bag and fills it up, and that's the perfect amount for this setting with the little agitator. That's the word for this guy. I don't do anything with the bottom of here. It's kind of scary, and we probably shouldn't even be looking at that. It's kind of gross. But I will kind of clean this gasket a little bit. Just make sure there's no big chunks there. You want this toilet to be sealed. One of the really cool things about a composting toilet is because you have air sucking out of here all the time, there's no smell. If you smell something, either when you're using it or when you're not using it, something's wrong. There's a problem. A little bit more detail about I'm calling it a P diverter. This is 3/4 inch pipe, PVC. This is just it's a coupler or a union. I always forget which one. I think it's a coupler. This is the coupler that came on the end of the piece of pipe. So I just cut it. And then this plugs into another coupler that comes up through the floor. So on the floor is this exact part, but of course it goes down and then connects to the P tank. So this sits in the floor, and then this one comes and plugs right into it. And that's, I don't know, simple, easy. Doesn't leak. Unless your P tank fills up, then bad things happen. So we have 3/4 inch. The length is determined by the gasket of the toilet. We'll look at that here in a second. 3/4 inch. Then we go to an adapter that brings out, I think this is, I'm going to say 2 inch, maybe 1.5. I'll show you where to measure to get this the right size, but very simple. This is what keeps you from playing with pee jugs. And then we'll talk about the tank underneath here in a minute as well. So coming back over to the toilet, we're not going to put it in yet. I put it in when I install the toilet back in. But this is the rubber gasket, and that's why this is whatever size it is, 2 inches, because that looks like maybe 2.5, and so that just goes up against it. It just hits it. So you have to get this length pretty darn good so you have the right compression and all that, so you don't get dribblies. Okay, I'm gonna go put a little drop of oil on this because when I just pulled it out, it was hard to get out of there. That was take 1. You guys saw take 2. So let me do that and we'll put it back in. It's lighter now. That's kind of scary. I don't think I like that. So these brackets, there's actually, excuse me. So there's a cutout in the bottom of the toilet. These were supposed to be 180. This was supposed to go under the toilet, and I missed that. So now mine go out this way, which not a big deal, but you should know. And then get a close-up of this guy. So that's just that PVC coming through the floor. And the other one's going to plug right in there. And then I have a hole in the toilet right there. Basically, you just look for that hole and put it in there and clunk. And now I'm going to put the little thumb screws back in. Okay, the toilet is clamped back down, got the little screws in there. I've hooked up my vent. I've hooked up my fan. I can hear my fan running. That's a good thing. So we're just going to put this little guy back in. I'm going to unclip the latches. I'm going to lift the lid a little bit. I'm putting that into the other PVC. I probably shouldn't, but I'm centering that with my fingers and push it down, clamp it, and there we are. No leak scenario. Honestly, I don't remember what this was for, this little guy down here. It did come with a toilet. You can see it's the exact same material. And I just put it in, it's kind of like a piece of trim material. You don't have to have that. In fact, if this was gone, it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. I'm talking about this little donut guy here. Guess I should have used stainless steel screws there, huh? And then one other thing, when I first built the camper, this toilet used to slide in and out. And so there's a hole over here on the side of this guy. And instead of having there's a hole here. You see my fingers in there? So instead of having this just go straight out the floor, it was just an elbow, a 90-degree elbow. And then it came out. And then I just had a piece of flexible hose connected to it right here. And I made sure that the hose from that point on was lower than the toilet, so it would drain. And then when you rolled the toilet in and out, that hose would just, it was just big enough because you're only moving it a couple feet. So that worked out really well. So there's my vent hose, kind of a tight 90 right there, but it does work fine. And I'll show you where that goes on the outside. Very important how you do your vent hose. So let's go look at that now. Okay, this is my vent coming out of the bathroom box right here. There's the power wire. And you can see it goes straight up and it comes out right there. And that is a marine part. It's stainless steel. Got that from defender.com. There's no screen in it. If you get a really hard wind hitting the side of this camper, sometimes it can push some air out of that toilet, which is bad. What I've done on a different camper is you have that, and then you can buy this clamshell thing that fits over it. And you face that to the back, the opening, and then the wind can't blow. And then when you drive down the road, it creates a vacuum and it actually pulls air from your toilet. So that's another option. I'll try to link both of those. Like I said, defender.com, all your really cool parts, marine parts, stainless parts, expensive parts. That's where you find those. There is no screen in that at all. And in fact, the composting toilet comes with a little tiny filter that goes with that fan. And what'll happen is when you first put that compost in there and it's all dusty and dry and you mix it, bounce around, whatever, that little fan can get clogged, that filter can get clogged by the dust. And I've had to take mine apart several times over the years, and I just finally said, I don't need that. So basically, flies could go straight in there right now. They don't. I mean, I don't have any bug problem, but I would recommend if you start having smells, check that filter, clean it. And like I said, I just tossed mine. I don't think it's that important. A better thing would be to have a filter up here if you did have a problem. Maybe I don't live in a buggy enough area. All right, this is the bread box, we call it, my friend's RV. So this is how he did his vent. And the cool thing about that is when the wind's blowing, it's not going to blow back in. The way mine's set up, if I have a strong wind hitting the right side of the camper, it can get a little bit of backflow. It's not bad. Sometimes you'll get just a tiny smell, but anyway, you can see that, right? I don't have a ladder, it's up there. So that's a standard RV part that you can put on the top of your vent line. Pretty good idea, I think. All right, the P tank is, I think I said already, it's 7 gallons. It's right about there. So I'm gonna crawl under there and just give you guys a quick look at it. And then there is an electric ball valve with the hose going back, but you don't need a very big tank. Okay, this is where the tanks have their drain. And just look right under here. There's just a garden hose attachment right there. So you can just hook up your garden hose and run it to the proper place when you're ready to dump, which is what I do all the time. Okay, here's an important side note for you guys. So I installed a fan in your bathroom. The fan is great for drying out your shower, your towels, and all that good stuff. The fan is not good for composting toilets because that fan overpowers the tiny computer fan in the composting toilet. And so what happens is it sucks air from the outside through the toilet and into the bathroom. So yeah, you don't want to use a big fan. Don't think you need a big fan for your bathroom for the toilet. So here's a little tip for you guys. So I eat my Greek yogurt, my giant thing of oatmeal. I take a knife, I cut it. This is where we put paper. We put it in here because it's contained, and we don't want to put it in there because it fills up your composting toilet a lot faster, I think. Now, right down here in this little door, that's another place you can paper product. And so that goes right into the garbage can. So here's what I put in here. Pine Sol, you don't want to put very much in because you're spraying it every day and you will choke yourself right out of here. What is that? 2 tablespoons? 2 tablespoons Pine Sol. And I don't know why. I just like to put a little dish soap in there. Vinegar is a really good thing for P calciums, whatever is in there. I guess that breaks it down pretty well. And then fill it up with water. And like I said, every time you use that toilet, spray this in there, because if you don't, you will build up a nasty, yellowy, scaly stuff. Okay, a few farting thoughts here. I can't say enough about composting toilets. I just think that it is an amazing thing to use, to have. It's a complete game changer for camper slash RV. I will never own a black tank again. And I think if any of you have seen my other videos, you know I'm pretty passionate about all that. So I'm going to bury this. I wanted to say one more thing about the compost that you can use. Sphagnum peat moss is my favorite. Coconut Coir is good. It works well. And compact. You can get it in bricks. So in an emergency, I have used probably the weirdest one. Sorry for the environment. Was in Mexico, they have big bags of laundry detergent, and it's like these little fluffy puff balls. I ran out of all compost materials. I couldn't get sawdust. I think would be one of the better options. And so I used laundry soap. It worked. It worked fine, actually. But I certainly wouldn't give it to this tree when I was done. All right, so I'm going to bury this, and you guys put some questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. I know if I come to a campsite, I am not digging here. It's like a giant cat came by. You're welcome, tree. Okay, let's see, what was I saying? So I'm just going to pull this composting toilet straight up, and you'll see this will pop out of another piece of PVC. Here we go. Okay. Might have to edit that one.